Shall we begin?
You aren't stuck in traffic. You are traffic.
Let's begin now.
Please get that bicycle-shaped object out of this shop. Oh no, dude. No mix and match here. Black bottoms or full-on kit. Pedal on, bro. Pedal on.
Let's begin now.
Oh, geez. Learn the hard way. Wider is better.
Today is Thursday, July 4th, 2019. You just downloaded and are listening to Bike Shop CX. Thanks for listening. Thanks for downloading, everyone. Music I'm using on today's show is Be Jew by Philly Run. As always, you can get this tune at the Free Music Archive where you can download it for free. All right, this is a special holiday edition of Bike Shop CX. This is a new format. This has nothing else is changing with the way the show goes or anything. This is a little special project I just wanted to do, thinking what could I set out for the holiday, for the July 4th holiday, and I thought what better to do than a race recap of one of the greatest performances by an American elite men's cyclocross racer ever, and that is the 2007 World Championships. Jonathan Page's shining moment. I'm sure he had a lot of shining moments. This is one of them, and I wanted to highlight it. And the reason I got to this is because I had asked several people around, have you ever read about or watched what happened in that race? Most people know Jonathan Page got a silver at the Worlds. It's the only time an American elite man has ever been on the podium at Worlds, but most people know that. But if you say, hey, have you ever seen the race and how it unfolded? Most people, or a large percentage of people, a surprisingly large percentage of people say, no, I've never watched it or seen it. So I thought, let's do a race recap because it is an amazing race. So let's do a race recap, bring that to people. Maybe you're driving somewhere this holiday, and you're thinking, all right, a little something to put on here to get us to our destination, and a little cyclocross in July. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do a race cap of the 2007 Elite Men's Worlds. It was a great world championship for the U.S., probably the best ever. There has not been one this good since. In fact, the only other person to medal at Worlds has been Katie Compton since this race, except for in 2017 when Ellen Noble won the U23. Or got second at the U23, I should say. So, without further ado, let's get on with it. The Bike Shop is open. Okay, let me take you back to January 28th, 2007. The United States has already won 2 silver medals in this year's World Championships. For cyclocross, they went to Katie Compton for the elite women and Danny Summerhill for the junior men. The elite men for the United States have never medaled at the World Championships, hoping to do so this year, coming in strong with a team led by Ryan Trebone coming off his national championship win. Jonathan Page has survived a pretty serious injury to his shoulder that year, and he is back and he is on the team, and everyone is hoping that he is well rested and through that injury. We're at the Domenico Savio in Belgium. 30,000 spectators estimated at this race. In attendance in the race today is the 2006 champion Erwin Vervecken, the 2005 champion Sven Nys, of course, and Bart Wellens, also a favorite to win. Also in the race for the Dutch is Mr. Gronendahl. He is a former world champion and is always a serious threat at any Worlds. just so I can paint a little bit of a picture of what this looks like. We are back in the time in 2007. We are back in the time of cantilever brakes and flying shift cables. We are not so far back that we're seeing spinnergy wheels or anything like that, but we're still, still a long way from full-on disc brakes at this point, and we still got the riders still have the flying shift cables that come out the side of the levers to operate their shifters. As the race starts, we get a quick glimpse of the start line as we usually see the UCI start banner. There's a crowd forming around the start line. Everyone is excited for this race to go off. We see one of the favorites, Erwin Vervecken, at the start line. Everyone else at the start line looking nervous. We barely even get any notice of Jonathan Page in the picture. It is completely just not even hardly shown. There's one glimpse of him, I think, past Gronendal at one point, and where you can see him, but that's it. No one talking about him at all. Or Enrico Franzoi, the Italian national championship, also barely even a glimpse of him at the start line. We do get a good shot of Ryan Trebone yawning, so that's in there, yes, there, and but that's about it as far as many of the non-Belgian or Dutch riders go. Much attention is paid to Vervecken, Bart Wellens, of course, and Sven Nys. The front line across the front is mostly Belgian riders, of course, one Dutch rider, and that's about it. As they start, they come off the line fast, as we always see in a cyclocross race. Gronendal, I believe, takes the whole shot and is quickly followed by 4 Belgians as they pass the finish line and into the first turn, which is a kind of a sweeping left turn that they head into as they head out onto the course. The first time you see Jonathan Page, he's in the front group, running somewhere between 15th and 20th. Looks very poised and calm as he navigates the rutted dirt section. As they pass the finish line, the first thing they get into, which almost becomes an obstacle in the race this year in 2007, is this little muddy area. I'm not going to call it a mud pit, but it's like this muddy area that they have to run. They come through the first pit all in a group, some of the mechanics running up to the wall and shouting at their riders as they go through. The Dutch are trying to work their way to the front, it seems. The race spreads out. They try and get to the front, and you see a couple of the Dutch riders actually gesturing to supporters. And you can't tell if they're yelling or if they're just making gestures, but they're through. There's a high tree section, as we see oftentimes in races in Belgium, where you've got the big trees and the course kind of snakes its way through that. They come around. There's a short paved section with some plastic barriers that will come into play in a big way in this race coming up. Then they're through a short grass section. The Dutch take the front, and off they go. As they hit the first set of stairs on lap number 1, the 2 sets of stairs are fairly close together. Not right with each other, but fairly close together. Jonathan Page comes in. He's approximately, going to say 15th at this point. Some riders are starting to actually gap behind him. He's maintaining the front group. There's a gap forming behind him, but he is still in that front group. Page's closest help of any kind would be Ryan Trebone. He's around 20th place, 7 or 8 seconds behind where Page is riding. Right near the end of the stairs, there's this long, it's a climb, it's a low gradual climb. So the group hits that. They start to go up the slow, long climb uphill, and we hear different announcers talking about how relaxed Nice looks. Everything's cool, calm. Everybody's together right now. Still, some small gaps forming, but for the most part, we see a big gap of riders. Page is still maybe within the top 15 in that front group, but he's probably at the end of that group at this point. The front is clearly being led by the Belgian team and the Dutch team. So they hit this long, slow, gradual climb that's going to, of course, come into play later, as we know, and later in the later laps. They get to the end of that, and right at the end of that is this really steep flyover that they have to go over, and you see many of the riders just straining, rocking the bikes to get over that. Every single one, the leaders included, after they've just done this climb, they get this another short little really steep leg killing section right at the end of that. They hit the sand section for the sand pit for the first time. The lead riders get through, but after about 7 or 8 riders get through, someone puts a foot down, and Page is caught up in that. There's a small gap that forms ahead of them, so there's a small little breakaway gap. Page is right at the front, though, of this second group that got caused because of the foot down. After that, as you can imagine, it becomes quite a bit of chaos behind as more and more people get caught up in that and pushed back because of the first person puts the foot down, as we often see in many races. Page is able to quickly remount, though, and run. He actually runs through the rest of the sand, quickly remount, is back on the bike. It doesn't cost him too much, but there is a definite gap there that they're going to have to close. Trebon also goes down partway during that sand, probably out of reach of providing Page any assistance at this point, but he manages to get through the sand as well. The lead group, there's about 11 riders in the lead group, still led by Groenendaal, and then 5 Belgians behind him, basically the entire Belgian team, Vervecken, Nice, Wellens, and down the list. Kevin Powles is in there as well. Then there's about 5 or 6 seconds back, and there's a chase group of about 5 or 6 riders, including Jonathan Page. They get back on the mud. They've gone through the pit number 2, back in the mud, and that group of 5 is able to slowly close that gap down, and now we have a lead group again of about 16 riders back together, including Jonathan Page in that group. Now we get to a point in the course that is going to be hugely important as this race plays out. They go back after pit number 2. They come back through the mud. There's a long straight on a grassy mud mix, and they come up to this short little steep hill that they have to go up and then turn left. This is going to become a major point of this race for several reasons. The first and biggest reason is going to be, we don't know this now, but as the riders ride the course on their right, and it's on the viewer's left as you're watching the race, but on their right, there was a hidden route that no one could see. And it basically became, at the beginning of this race, it basically became a crapshoot as to who was going to hit that. When the riders hit that hidden route, their bike essentially stops cold, and they flip like instantly and are hands into the mud, face first into the ground. This is going to happen several times on that hidden hill as the day progresses. They're hitting that right now, and in the first lap, the leaders managed to get through cleanly. We don't see any problem yet, but on a replay, we see a Czech rider hit that area right at the right spot, and he flips. And we don't know, the importance of that is not evident right now, but we're starting to get a glimpse of that, and we see what is going to play out as the race develops. Riders get through that muddy section. They take a sharp left onto the pavement, which is the finishing pavement. And as they come across that pavement to cross the finish line for the first time, Sven Nys leads the field. Lap time on lap 1 of 7 minutes, 29 seconds. Page remains in 13th place as he crosses the line, about 11 seconds back at this point. As they get through the finish line, they get into that muddy section that I mentioned on lap 1. This mud is almost like an obstacle on this course on this day. And as they pass that for the first time, past the start-finish line for the first time, and they get back into that mud pit for the first time on lap 2 for the second time in the race, Dutch rider Gerben de Knight swerves right. He overcorrects and goes down. This almost takes out one of the Belgian riders, but the more important thing of this is this causes another pause in the field. Wellens is caught behind that. Nice and Vervecken are in front of it, and they go and they create a gap, and they're off. This early in the race, though, obviously everyone's still feeling fresh, and there's a big group behind 2 riders, including Bart Wellens. So they continue to put the pressure on. They're on a fast part of the course, so the effect of having numbers is magnified, and they are able to pull those 2 back, Vervecken and Nice. As soon as they do, and this is part of the advantage of having an incredibly strong team like the Belgians do, as soon as they pull them back, Wellens attacks up the left side, and he goes away. Vervecken is not able to answer that. Nice goes with him, and Vervecken has to drop in behind his wheel, and those 3 start to gap the field as they drop off the second set of stairs. As they do this, as they hit those stairs, we start to see Jonathan Page has moved from his place where he was riding back in the top 15, and he is now well into the top 10, approximately in 7th position as they hit the stairs. At this time, we hear his name being announced for the first time in the race as he's, into the top 10, and now looks like he could be a serious player in what's going to happen in this race today. The 3 Belgians continue to snake their way through lap 2. Nice and Wellens appear to be a little bit fresher than Vervecken right here. They start to gap him a little bit and just appear fresher in general at this point. There's a slight gap that forms between them. They hit that steep flyover ramp for the second time. Page powers over that thing nicely, and then with no one in front of him this time, he rides the sand clean, as do all the other leaders. Okay, so what we're looking at right now, we got Wellens leading the race, Nice in second, slight gap back to Vervecken. Then we got Franzoy and a couple other riders mixed in there, and then Jonathan Page right in maybe the top 5, 6, 7. Then the shakeup. One of the most unbelievable things that happens during the race this day. On the original footage, all you see is the cameras panning back, and you see bikes and riders like spread across the course. And it is Sven Nys and Bart Wellens both on the ground, and you have no idea. You see there's a series of red and white plastic barriers, and they are all disheveled, and those 2 are laying on the ground. Nys is quickly up, back on his bike and riding away. Wellens is rolling on the ground. He looks to be hurt. He spends a little bit more time on the ground. He's farther away from his bike, and he's in between 2 of those barriers. What has happened that we see on the replay is one of those plastic barriers was actually knocked by a TV quad and knocked straight to Bart Wellens. Bart Wellens goes down. Because of that, he comes completely off his bike. It slides across the course. Nice is, of course, right on his wheel. Nice hits his handlebars, and he flips over as well and hits the ground. Back then, they didn't have the cable cameras like we have today. They actually, when you see these tracking shots, a lot of that was done on ATV quads so that they could keep up with the riders, and that's what's happened. That they've clipped the edge of one of these plastic barriers that look to weigh almost nothing, and that thing just goes flying off into the course, and down they go. Vervecken, meanwhile, is able to thread the needle between the two of them and is away clean. There's clean air in front of him, and he gaps the field, and he's probably got a 10-second gap on the rest of the field. Nice, as I said, he recovers quickly. He's back up, riding in second, and Jonathan Page is right behind him, now in fourth position. But we are not done with the shaking up yet. Remember the tricky hill that I told you is going to come into play in the hidden tree route? The shake-up is going to continue. On the camera's left, at the bottom of that little steep rise, as the riders come into it, Vervecken has approximately a 10-second lead at this point and rides straight into the route and flips and hits the ground hard. He is all alone at this point, riding along the course, and basically his bike just comes to a complete stop, and over he goes, hands and face hitting the ground. He's able to protect his face a little bit as he hits the ground, and down he goes. This is, of course, going to shorten up that gap. He does still manage to maintain the lead, but is of course brought everything back together as we continue on. As Vervecken runs up the remainder of that little hill, we are able to see in the back of the picture Jonathan Page and Sven Nys come into view, and they're closing that down. They can see Vervecken running up ahead of them. They put the power down, and off they go. Meanwhile, Wellens has come into the pit. He's gotten a new bike. He's back up riding, and he's back in the race. As the leaders cross the line for the second time, Vervecken is in the lead. Nys is a couple seconds behind him, and Jonathan Page is running in third position, a few seconds behind him. Meanwhile, the field is now really hitting that small little rise with the hidden route, and we see more riders continue to go down and flip their bikes. And when I say flip their bikes, I mean flip their bikes. They're not just laying their bikes down. They're hitting this thing full on and doing a complete front endo and smacking into the ground as they hit. Lap 2 finishes in 14:42 as that trio comes through of Vervecken, Nys, and Page. Through pit 1, the lead remains the same. Page is sitting in on the two Belgians who are just look to be at ease. We got Vervecken and Nys. Page is playing it very smart. He knows these two guys are strong. He's gonna sit in with them and let them go. They're the ones there. They've got to push the pace. He's gonna sit in and let them do it. They get back through that tall set of trees along this little road there that we're familiar with seeing all the time, and all of a sudden the pace pickens up, and you might wonder why. And as they look back, you see Sven Nys looking over his shoulder, and he sees that the trio has been joined by Richard Groenendahl. He's right on Page's wheel. This is going to, of course, cause them to want to increase the pace. They might not have viewed Jonathan Page as big of a threat as Groenendahl, but now with Groenendahl there, the pace just naturally goes up, and away they go. Also, as they continue through those trees, we see them being joined by an Italian rider, Enrico Franzoi. He joins the bunch at the front. When he joins that group, you see him push the pace all by himself a bit, short burst up the left side, and just to kind of test the waters and see what's going on. Page is riding very smart at this time. He doesn't have any help around. He's sitting behind Vervecken and Nys, while the Italian and Dutch rider attack them up the left-hand side. He lets them go. He sits behind the Belgians, biding his time. He knows we've got a ton of racing still to go. The group continues to be joined by other riders. Page sits in there relaxed, comfortable, conserving his matches, waiting for the race to continue to develop. Remember, this is only lap 3, and all this has already happened. He's sitting in, playing it smart, and waiting for things to develop. The Italian and Dutch rider have gone to the front. The Belgians are perfectly happy to let them go. They let them go and control the pace. They know they've got numbers. They know they've got that Wellens is back riding again, I'm sure. And they still got Kevin Powles. Kevin Powles is behind them too. So they know they've got other riders that can still come up and join them if the pace does slow. As they hit that steep flyover again, Page looks like he's riding it as easy or easier than anyone. He's right up and over it, looks effortless at that point. Everybody else is rocking their bikes and, delivering the mail a little bit as they go over it, and Page is able to just kind of swoop and go right over it and looks great at this point. The leaders then hit the sand. They all make it through cleanly, no problems at all. They come back around. They go back past those red and white barriers that jumped out and took out Wellens on the previous lap. No problems past that, and then head through pit number 2. As they go through pit number 2 on lap 3, Jonathan Page comes in and gets a bike. He's the only one of the front leaders that gets a bike. A few people behind him get a bike. He's the first one to come in, though, and get a bike on this second pit in lap 3. The leaders head towards this small, steep problem hill where the tree root is. Remember, they don't know that this is a problem yet. Vervecken knows because he went down there, but the rest of them don't know about this really yet, probably, right? They haven't seen what's happened behind them, so they may not know about it. Some of them are riding very close, and at this point, anytime you see anyone heading over there to their right and the camera's left, it makes it very nervous to watch them go up that. But all the leaders are able to clear it this time, and they head off to the stairs. Up over the stairs, then a sharp left. That sharp left turn that they'll do onto the finishing straight, and they're onto the finishing straight. As they cross the line for the completion of lap 3, it's in 21:56. Page moves up a spot to 5th and returns to the wheel of the Belgians Nice and Vervecken. Then camera moves away, shows some other riders in the field, some that are crashing right at that small hill again. When the camera comes back, we see Page, and then we look and behind him, we see Nice and Vervecken, and they're on the ground. This is the second time on the ground for Sven Nice. On the replay, we see that Vervecken slides out completely. He's not quite, it's right near the mud section that I was talking about earlier. He's kind of right before that. There's looks like there was even some sand put down, and he loses his wheel in that. He goes down. Sven Nice hits another teammate's handlebars and is completely flipped off of his bike again. Jonathan Page, who was, remember, right behind them, he had just moved up behind them on the finish straight, is able to throw an evasive move in over to the left and just barely avoid going down with those two. Gronendahl is now at the head of the race. He's smelling blood at this point. He attacks Franzoe and Page and gets a gap, and off he goes. Kevin Powles is now the lone Belgian in the lead group. Right in front of him, Franzoe and Page continue to work on pulling Gronendahl back, and they slowly are able to do so as the riders wind their way through the course. Up through the steps, everything remains the same. They go over the steep run up again, and they head to pit 2 once again. At this point, Nice and Vervecken have joined the back of that lead group. I call it a group. They're a little bit spread out, but they are at the back of that. Gronendahl is off the front a bit. They come around the turn, and like I said, into pit 2. As they get to pit 2, the top 6 riders all come in and get bikes. The leaders hit the small, tricky problem hill with the tree root. Gronendahl gets through it clear. Franzoe, Page gets through it clear. The top 10 riders or so get through it clear, but not Sven Nice. Sven Nice rides straight into the root and is flipped for the 3rd time in the race. He is down. He hits the ground again. You can see just the disgust and pain on his face as he remounts his Colnago at the top and just kind of shaking his head a little bit like, what? I mean, Every single thing is just coming up and biting him in this race today. And there's just not much he can do about it. The 3 times he hit the ground, maybe you can blame this last one on him. Maybe he should have avoided that route, but you certainly can't blame the first 2 on him. And in my opinion, I don't really think you can blame any of the 3 on him. It's just one of those days, and it was not going to be his day today. Lap 4 finishes in 29:08. In first place is Gronendahl. Second place, Franzoe. Third place, Jonathan Page with 5 laps to go. Bart Wellens continues to push to try to get back into the race after his barrier mishap. As he goes through pit number 1, he's now able to gain Sven Nyse's wheel. Sven has, of course, dropped back even further a little bit since that mishap on the rooted hill. Gronendahl, Franzoe, and Page ride through the tall trees section of the course in that order. Small gap back to the rest of the field. Gronendahl has maybe 5 seconds on the other 2. They continue around the course, clear the 2 sets of stairs, then the long, gradual climb to the steep flyover that bumps up again, like I was saying, and then into the stand where the leaders are now starting to lap riders. The leaders all come through pit number 2. None of them make any exchanges back. About 7, 8, 9 riders. Wellens and Nyse, who are now riding together. However, they both come in for a bike exchange at the same time. The top-notch pros that they are, they space themselves so that their mechanics can make the exchange properly. They do it beautifully, and out they go. Gronendahl now reaches the small problem hill with the root. He rides it on the left, but manages to clear it no problem. Franzoe goes through it too. Page, on the other hand, for the first time, his first misstep of the day, his front catches the root slightly, not dead on, and doesn't flip like everyone else. He kind of goes off to the side. He puts a foot down. He does have to dismount, but he doesn't lose all his momentum. So he's able to continue kind of in one motion, continue to run. He runs up the hill, regains his bike, is able to remount fairly easily, and continue on with losing very little time. It is a mistake, but he's still right there with Franzoe. Also, important to note, in the chase group right now, Vervecken has caught Kevin Powles, and the 2 Belgians are now riding together in the chase group. Gronendahl comes through the finish of lap number 5. Franzoe crosses the finish of lap number 5, 4 seconds behind him, with Jonathan Page very close behind him. Now we get to that mud section, and I said it's almost like an element of the course itself. It comes right after the finishing straight and the finishing line. We flash over to that. We see in that mud, and Gronendahl is down. He's in the mud. His bike is still with him. He's looking back, and we see the other 2 coming on strong. He's able to get up because he had a slight lead. He's able to get up and maintain his lead. However, they are very close to pit number 1 at this point. So when they do get to pit number 1, he comes in for a new bike because his bike is full of mud and it was just on the ground. And Franzoe and Page continue on. They pass him, and now we got Enrico Franzoe and Jonathan Page leading the race with Gronendahl several seconds behind him. On the replay, we see that Gronendahl, he basically just loses his front wheel, then loses his rear wheel, and he goes down non-drive side, so he was able to remount and get to the pit, luckily for him, and continue on. Franzoe now is really hitting the gas. They're in a fast section of the course. He knows, hey, it's time to go. All the bigger names, all the favorites of the race are behind us. We've got a gap. He starts to put down some watts, and they kind of ride away. You see this group behind them, maybe 5, 6, 7 seconds of the blue Belgian and the orange Dutch jerseys, and you see this long gap up to these 2 riders, and you think, oh man, this is big. Page again, calmly sitting in second, waiting to make his move, took his turn in the front, but then is calm when he's behind Franzoe. The 2 go through the stairs cleanly. They hit the long uphill that leads to that steep flyover with no problem. Page, though, as you see, you've noticed that Franzoe is not the best rider in the sand. So Jonathan Page at this point has got it in his head And he does, when they get to the sand pit, he makes a move to make sure that he's back up and back around Franzoe. He does not want to be behind Franzoe as they go into the sand pit. And while he's at it, he actually looks like he attacks a little bit. A few seconds behind Franzoe, you can see Vervecken, Gronendal, they looked very determined that they're going to chase. The question is, how much does Jonathan Page have left at this point, and are they going to be able to reel it in? After his move through the sand, Jonathan Page, they come around, does the turn through pit number 2, leading the World Championship with nothing in front of him but clean air. Franzoe is several seconds off his back wheel. Jonathan Page leading the World Championship, and off he goes. Page gets to the small problem hill with the root again, and at this point he appears to have put a little bit of time into Franzoe. He doesn't appear to have put time into Gronendal, and Vervecken, they still look about the same distance behind him, but Franzoe has maybe dropped back a little bit as Page continues on. Other riders continue to ride the rooted problem hill. We're about to have another problem on this hill, as if the root wasn't enough. Bart Wellens, while he's continuing to make his move towards Sven Nys, he actually has to swerve. Most of the time they've been riding up the right side of this and just avoiding the root. He has to actually swerve over to the left as he gets caught in a root. And as he does, the fans push in, and the barrier keeping the fans back collapses almost right in front of Bart Wellens' wheels. He makes a little bit of an evasive move to the right and is able to not go down or not fall into it, but it is extremely close. And Bart Wellens almost has his second run-in of the day with barriers. Page comes through the start-finish line in 43.46 with 3 laps to go. Behind, Franzoe still in second. Vervecken leads the group and is looking to close in on Page that's behind them. At this point, Jonathan Page, what's going on? Jonathan Page, the Belgians and the Dutch are both disorganized and spread out behind him, so that's a good thing. Franzoe is between Jonathan Page and any of the Belgian and Dutch riders, so that's a good thing. And he's got about a 10-second lead at this point, and he also appears to just be totally dialed and calm. He's not overexciting. You see it at one point he comes through, I think it's pit number 1, and he motions to the team. I believe Jeff Proctor was in the pit, and Stu Thorne, I know, was a mechanic that year at Worlds. So you see him like motioning to the pit, kind of like, I'm good, everything's cool, So he appears very totally dialed and calm at this point as he leads the World Championship race. Page continues to push the pace through the tall tree section, looking good. He's starting, and you think maybe he's starting to get a little bit excited at this point. Things are starting, the reality of what's going on maybe hitting him a little bit. He starts to maybe ride a little bit sketchier, a little sketchy on the steps. A couple of his dismounts are not as smooth as his earlier ones had been up to this point, and that's totally understandable. At one point, he causes all the fans' hearts to skip when his foot comes out of his pedal, completely out of his pedal, and he does like a jerking motion. He has to kind of re-catch himself, re-clip in, and continue on. Vervecken, meanwhile, has passed Franzoe and is beginning to close in on Jonathan Page. Franzoe is able to maintain his composure, regain the second spot over Vervecken as they reach that steep flyover, and they head into the stand. As they head into the stand, they pull even. Franzoe and Vervecken pull even, and Franzoe then dumps it in the sand. And it's a reminder of the lap before when Page did not want to be behind Franzoe. This time, his front wheel sticks and he completely flips and he drops back probably 2 riders. He's behind Kevin Powles at this point, with Vervecken just away and chasing down Jonathan Page on his own. As they come into pit number 2, Jonathan Page rounds the sharp turn and comes in and does another bike exchange. Remember, he just had a foot come out of the pedal. Who knows what's going on? If nothing else, I want to make sure I can stay clipped in. Page at this point looks to be holding a 4 to 5 second gap on Vervecken, and it looks to be like that's pretty steady. Both riders get to the tricky rooted hill and clear it with no problems this time. They get to the stairs again. Page lead looks to be about maybe 2 or 3 seconds. It really looks like Vervecken is closing in on him. Kevin Powles is back there, and then the 2 strong Dutch riders are coming up right on Kevin Powles' wheel. Page comes through the finish line, showing 2 to go. Vervecken is right on his wheel now as they cross the line in 51.05. Page has looked back at Vervecken, sees that he's there, knows he's there, and now has to plot what to do with 2 to go. As they're riding Vervecken on Page's wheel, it looks like Vervecken is not quite able at this point to hold on to Jonathan Page's wheel. The gap keeps, it's like the rubber band, right? The bungee cord, it keeps stretching and compressing. The elastic does not break, but it keeps stretching and compressing. At one point, Page has to put his foot down in that muddy section that's given a couple riders, including Vervecken, problems today. And they come back around now through pit number 1 after the finish line. Neither rider coming in for a pit at this point. They come around through a grassy section back into the tall tree section. At this point, Page takes his left hand off the bars, looks back at Vervecken, is basically like, dude, come on. You got to do some work here. Vervecken goes up, moves up, takes the lead, and Page tucks in comfortably on his rear wheel to take a bit of a break. They pull farther away from the field, with only Franzoe able to separate himself and look to close the gap. The others are all back. Franzoe is still in the race and is pushing past, looks to be stronger than everyone besides the 2 leaders, and is starting to close that gap a little to the front too. As they pass other riders and come to the stairs again, the 2 look very even. They both look strong. They both look smooth. And you know this is going to come down to a last lap dogfight. Then as they hit that long, gradual climb that leads to that steep flyover, Vervecken attacks. He hits that, gives it some gas, and creates a small gap between himself and Page. I think it looks like maybe he surprises Page a little bit right there as to why he would be attacking. Page looks as strong, but just maybe a little bit slow to react to that attack. Page remains calm, continues to ride his pace, doesn't overdo it and explode or anything, just maintains his pace, starts to raise it a little bit and see if he can reel him in. They come through the sand, no problems, and they get to that short paved section where those red and white barriers are, the ones that took out Wellens. Page is able to then increase his speed on this and get back on Vervecken's wheel, and the 2 are together again. They go through pit number 2. Everything remains the same. Erwin Vervecken and Jonathan Page, wheel to wheel, coming into the start-finish straight for the second to last time, and going to see 1 lap to go. They make that sharp left turn to get onto the pavement, come through. Jonathan Page rides up to the front to take his turn, and he leads through the finish line, seeing with the bell. 1 lap to go at 58.27. Remember, right after the finish line is that muddy section. They get to that muddy section. Page rides it clean. Vervecken, for the second or third time, depending on how far you count that section, if you can include it all the way back to that sand, he loses his balance again and has to put a foot down again. At this point, Page is going hard. He knows he's got a little bit of a break here, and I suspect, if you remember, Vervecken attacked and had a lot of strength on that climb. I'm sure Jonathan Page was maybe thinking, I need a little bit of time if we get to that again, if he attacks again. Where am I going to make my move? Where am I fastest on this course? And that's where I need to attack. And I've been given a couple extra seconds here. Let's see if I can take advantage of it. through the tall trees again. Page is just standing on the pedals when he can, trying to give them every bit of power that he has. As he rounds this sweeping turn, Vervecken is out of the picture behind him, maybe 4 seconds back, and Page is just driving, trying to get as much of a lead as he can at any point that he can. This is a fast section of the course, so you got to be going real quickly through it, and he's just giving it everything he's got. He's back through that short paved section where the red and white barriers are, through those, back onto the grass, and standing on the pedals, rocking the bike, and just driving with everything that he's got. That Cervelo that he's riding is just performing very well today. The other place, though, that Vervecken is maybe a little bit faster than Page on this day is through those trees. Vervecken seems to have more top-end speed, it seems, than Page, and Page might have a little more power, I think, as you watch this. So Vervecken is able to slightly gain on him through those and close that gap down a little bit. They get to the stairs. Jonathan Page is still in the lead. We're waiting for Vervecken to maybe attack on that rise up to the steep flyover. The gap closes further, and they are back together. As they get to the gradual climb, Vervecken seems to be trying to put some pressure on, but Page knows it's coming. He continues to push hard up that climb, and Vervecken is only able to gain a little bit. When they get to a sharp right-hand turn, Vervecken is able to get in on the inside line and pass Page. Page is now sitting second wheel. They come around, it drops, and then they curve back to the left, and Page gives him a taste of his own medicine, takes the inside line away from him this time, and Page retakes the lead as they head into that steep flyover. Page is first over the flyover and onto the sand. Jonathan Page rides the sand clean and managed to put maybe a couple seconds. Again, I think he has a little bit more power at this point, but Vervecken has a little bit more top-end speed. Page creates a little bit of a gap, but on that paved section with the barriers, Vervecken is able to close that down, reel him in, and get back on the wheel. Coming through pit number 2, it's Page leading Vervecken. Neither rider comes in for a bike. It's a sharp turn so that to not go into the pit. They both cut the post really closely by their right shoulder as they come around that. They head off. Page slightly in front of Vervecken, but he's right on his wheel. They increase the speed as they both are going. Vervecken is able to pass Page again, going through a corner and taking the inside line to get in front of him slightly. But then Jonathan Page is able to again get him back on a similar move on taking the inside line away from him again. They get to this little tricky rutted hill, and unbelievably, Jonathan Page gets his wheel goes into a rut, and he loses a bit of his momentum just as Vervecken is attacking, and Vervecken is able to gap him. He gets up the stairs first, and he's off. This is where he's going to be fast on this section. He's got that top-end speed, and it's going to be a major, major thing with what's left of the final lap for Jonathan Page to catch him. It all came down to that one tricky rooted hill. Page did not hit that big root that everyone had hit. He just hit a fluke rut. He lost a little bit of momentum right when Vervecken is attacking, and there's the race. Vervecken then goes on. He takes the tight left turn. He gets on the pavement to the finishing straight. He's got maybe a 3-second gap on Jonathan Page. They maintain that through the paved finishing straight, and Vervecken goes on to win the race in 1:05:35 with Jonathan Page 3 seconds off his wheel. Franzoi comes in to complete the podium and take third. The Italian national champion gets the third spot on the podium. And And there you go, folks. One of the greatest races of all time, whether or not you're an American cyclocross fan, just an unbelievable unfolding of events with all the stuff that happened in that race. It's just incredible. We rarely get to see races like that with that much going on anymore. So hope you all enjoyed. We're going to enjoy this episode. I'm going to do more of these. If you like them, if you do like them, send me an email, bikeshopshow@gmail.com. Hit me up on Twitter @bikeshopcx. Hit me up on Instagram, also @bikeshopcx. And we'll get some more of these out there. I know there was a few things that I spoke, said some words that aren't really words. So I'll just keep working on that. This is hard to do, so we'll keep getting better with that if you keep listening. All right, have a great 4th of July holiday, everyone. We'll be back with you soon with Mr. David Palin for another regular episode of Bike Shop CX. Until then, I hope everybody is getting out there and riding on this 4th of July weekend. If you are getting out there and riding, you know the drill. Be careful out there and take care of each other out there. And until next time, the Bike Shop is closed.